So Karen, 5 Minute Success Podcast. Did you get a chance to listen to your episode on our sales training for podcasters?
Yes, and I got so many great tips. I'm going to remember to use them. Yes, no, it was really, I'm sure you all big podcasters have that experience, right? Where you're in the moment and you're engaged with, the person that's you're interviewing or the guest. And then you go back and listen to it and you go, wow, that's really powerful stuff.
Well, we had an episode, and we've had a chance to have you on a number of our shows and referred you to a number of the shows that are on our client list. And Karen is a good client of Turnkey Podcast for years, one of our earlier clients. And Karen, one of the people that we had on the show, I was so busy taking notes that I forgot I was actually interviewing her, and she'll be on later today, Melanie Benson, and she was great. And you're such a wealth of information. You come from such a great sales background, and your history is so rich with putting people into the products and services that you have. Can we start there, or where do you want to start?
I'm sort of new to the selling game in thinking of myself as a salesperson, or thinking of myself as being good at sales, actually, because while I know when I was just a trainer, although I've never been just a trainer, but I was working in a medical clinic, and the way that the leads would come in, the funnel was that the clinic was doing the advertising and they were getting their leads, and then they would come in and they'd meet with the doctor, and the doctor would basically close the sale, and the sale would then go to the doctor and then the nutritionist and then to me as a trainer, and I would already be built in to have a consultation with them. And then in the consultation, because as a problem solver, I was just showing them and uncovering what it was that they needed, I'd close 50% of those sales, if not more, on a regular basis, because they already were bought into the system. So I didn't really feel like I had to do anything except show them what they needed that I could provide that was part of a system already. And so I still didn't even think of myself as a salesperson until my podcast. I mean, my podcast, because I'm not meeting with people one-on-one. They're not bought into, they haven't prepaid, they haven't been qualified, if you will, in any other way, except that they're listening to my show. So for me, it's been a new journey. And being with this guy and having him grow up with sales and having him represent sort of that sales person from the beginning, and me going, well, hold on, not everybody likes that. And not everybody relates to that. And so for you, when you were getting into sales, I know we talked about this a little bit on your episode, but did you feel like that, like confident about, I know I can sell something, whether it be real estate or whatnot, or was it that I had to sort of learn how to do the sales game and then how to make it personalized for you?
Well, what you were talking about, I call that fishing in a bucket, because you already have a bucket of fish,
right?
And you're just reeling them in. And that is a different type of sales than one where somebody has to create their own lead source.
Yeah.
So I frequently, when I'm first talking to people new in the business, I'm like, we're really actually in the lead generation business.
Right.
Because honestly, once you have a lead, well, first of all, until you have a lead, you have nothing to do. But once you have the lead, then it's conversion, right? They're already self-selected that they're going to buy or sell a house, right? So can you convert that lead? And that's what you were talking about. And so where you are in the process, but lead generation, if you think about it, let's just break these two components up. Lead generation is, the rainmaker. It's the goose that lays the golden egg. It's where it constantly comes from. And you had a goose, in that medical profession. It was laying golden eggs, and you knew how to convert those. So the part where, how do you attract those leads? That's more marketing. That's attraction based. Like, podcasting is a great attraction, adding content and value, and those kind of things are one way. But the most impactful is always going to be, the one-on-one, right, Doug? I mean, if you think about like how, I learned podcasting from you, I would say, could you refer me to this guest, right? Right. And you would make a referral. You still do that for me, right? Yeah. And I do that for you. So that is going to be, more sharpshooting, if you will. So you go after that avatar client customer that you want, and then you create that ideal customer client, and then you figure out how to get more of them.
In your opinion, Karen, what's the harder part? Is it the harder part in the lead generation or in the conversion from somebody that's already in your bucket to a customer?
It's always the lead converter. I mean, it's always the lead generator, because if you think about it, I mean, in so many settings, like new home sales or whatever, so all that marketing, all that attracting to the property, the person who's there is effectively a very glorified order taker, right? Because getting the person in the door is the one that takes the because, well, look at it the other way around. Until the person walks in the door, the person sitting there has nothing to do. Right. So of course it's always lead generator.
Yeah. And for me, I love when that fish is already in the bucket. And I'm sorry if I'm referring to a person as a fish, but I'm looking at it just in the analogy that you've given. And it's great because I'm all about that relationship. You know, it's when you're able to go like what we did before you were a client, we went out to lunch, we had a conversation. I got to know you, you got to know me. I felt a level of trust in you. And I believe that you felt the same in me. And what was great about it was then the sale is not like you're even making a sale. It's just now I'm supporting a mission that you have. And that mission is to get your message out to the world in the case of podcasting. The harder part for me has always been the marketing side of it as well. Getting the fish to jump into the bucket is the hard thing for me.
I would say that's what most people are going to say. If you think back even further, though, you know, if you do the great retrace, where did that referral come? So you weren't even a random person off the internet.
Either. Right. It came from Julie.
Yes. So, well, actually, we had a couple of connections. But so if you think about how your best customer clients, where they come from, and then do the great retrace and then go, oh, well, just go do that again, right? For, you know, client B and then client C and then client D. And then at some point you build momentum. You're probably going to have, you know, a certain categories of clients that you're going to then, you know, focus on ways that you can reach them in a more efficient or effective way than, but one-on-one is always going to have the most impact.
And one of the reasons why we did the show is because my most efficient way is my podcast. And
yes.
And hands down, I can just sit back and by the time they're ready, you know, there's a little bit of momentum needed to get there, but it's also the packaging and the messaging and how somebody knows, likes, and trusts you. You know, all the things you're talking about, like the one-on-one gets that know, like, and trust factor because there's nobody else there. It's 100% focused on you. But over time, that's exhausting. And that's why I stopped networking, because it was a waste of flipping time for me to, and again, it wasn't the right kind of client. And I got to cast a wider net with the podcast because I got to say, here's who I want to be, not who I was. Here's who I want to be. Here's who I want to be talking about. I don't know anyone currently. None of my clients want to talk about the things that I want to talk about. And so here, everybody, here's the things I want to talk about, which then attracted to me the people that want to talk about that.
Well, just look at that. You just used cast a bigger net. Yep. So in attraction, you know, type of marketing, like podcasts, that kind of thing, you do attract a bigger net. And they're going to, in a lot of ways, self-select. And then if you think about it, they are converting themselves as they listen to you, because they're going to go, yes, this resonates with me. I want to work with this kind of person. So but it is, to me, it's almost always a longer game.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
But it's also, to me, because I'm law of attraction based, it's leverage.
It is.
So it's less work. We interviewed Scott Sambucci yesterday on Sales Training for Podcasters. His episode will be out in mid-January. And, and I'm not comparing numbers. I don't really care about numbers. I care more about lifestyle. And I could hear, I said to him, he's like, we do this and we do this and we do this. And I said, okay, hold on. I have a question, Doug. I said, what's the difference between Scott's business and my business? I said, because Scott, I don't do any of that. I only do my podcast. And he's like, really? And Doug said, well, podcasting is a spoke on Scott's wheel versus podcasting is the center of my wheel. And so there's many ways to do that, because some people do have podcasts as a marketing arm that is a spoke on a wheel. But I asked him also, I said, have you tracked the quality of the leads from your podcast versus the quality of leads from, let's say, an email campaign or an ad campaign? And he hadn't. But I know without a shadow of a doubt that my podcasting leads are the right people.
Well, and you also have to look at it too, and you have to think about in Scott's case, and maybe even in Karen's case, you have to kind of qualify this, Karen, on your own. And those that are listening that have a podcast of your own, is your podcast your brand ambassador, or is it your brand ambassador and your business development tool? Because some people are actively pursuing business from their podcast, and in the way that JJ does it. And I wish that I had started doing this years ago when I first started my podcast, because what's so incredible about the way that JJ does this is that she creates this community, and the community is they're building the know, like, and trust factor just by listening to the show. And for me, it was always about, okay, how do I actually generate leads from my show? And I'm thinking about all of these other tentacles. And it was kind of like this thing that was off to the side as my brand ambassador. It was good, but it wasn't quite as effective as I have seen JJ's community grow and build and buy. She did a 6 figures in 6 weeks program, and it actually, it didn't just work. It was extremely successful.
Well, it's still working. I'm getting applications every day, but it was, I never thought, I mean, again, and COVID's been great for this, I thought I needed to have a live event. I thought I needed to have this because I was told in order to get the lead, you have to do this thing. And then I realized, oh no, I don't, not now, not with the momentum. So let's talk about your podcast and how you do your lead generation for like your book sales and coaching and things from your podcast, and what you find works really well for you. Because we didn't talk about that on the show.
Yes. Well, very much similar to what you're talking about. The format of the podcast then is something that people become interested in because it is the core principles of the 5-minute success. But you're hearing it from different guests, their perspective and the way they conduct their business. So what often happens is people want to know more, and wanting to know more takes them to the next level in, the sales pipeline or funnel or whatever it is you call it. So they'll, download the books on Audible, or they'll read the books, or they'll get engaged in the community on social media. And oftentimes I get the original people to listening to 5-minute success is because I'm a guest on other people's podcasts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And guesting is a great way to cast a wider net, right? Because I have my community and my email list of 25,000. But if you go on somebody else's podcast, then you're on their email list, you're in their community, and you're coming on as an expert. And so that is great with that. And then the same thing with coaching. Self-select. People like the style, they like the format, they want to go deeper. And so both of those have benefited. The other aspect to it is, I sell real estate. And so I actually have people contact me about selling real estate too.
Perfect.
I had people reach out to me all over the United States wanting assistance in finding someone that can help them in their market area. So it's actually been the most lucrative. That has been the most lucrative. If you put, I said this to Doug many times, a book is $10, coaching is valued at, so much an hour or whatever, or a month, or a group of coaching calls. But when I sell a house, my average sales price is, comes out to about a $10,000 ticket. So that is, that's where the biggest bang is.
Yeah, currently, right? I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for making it more, especially for your podcast, when you're not, because, not everyone in your audience is going to buy a house. So, creating new things for them to buy too would be.
Yes, but the audience, amazing, is oftentimes professionals, right? Other real estate professionals.
Oh.
So then they have referral needs. And so it is really, it's been not what I anticipated or expected, but it's been way better. So that's always a good thing.
We talk about that all the time on Turnkey Podcast, one of the shows that I host. Also, it's those hidden gifts that you get from podcasting. For me, it was the 850 or 900 guests that have been on my show, those relationships, those joint venture partnerships and affiliates that I've gotten from that that has surpassed by far any expectation. I had no idea that was going to be an area of benefit to me when I started my shows.
Yeah, the relationships and connections. I would agree with that, Doug, because the people I've met, the people I've had conversations with are priceless. I mean, I know we want to monetize and put real dollars behind it, but those have created opportunities that would probably not have come my way in any other format. And so when I look at it that way, that is huge.
I want to comment on the guesting, but first I want to read. Susan had said, I love that, fishing in the bucket. That's been all my experiences in my career so far. I think I'm realizing I have an issue with sales. And then Tim said it's easier being in sales and not being salesy. I want to mention about the guesting. So, especially on podcasts, everybody, like one of the best ways to market your podcast is being a guest on other people's podcasts, because people who listen to podcasts are looking for more podcasts to listen to, right? And I had in this launch that I'm still in for my mastermind, and in terms of the one-on-one networking referral. So Becky Jones just joined our mastermind this morning or last night, kind of, I guess. Becky. And she told me, and so Becky, if you were going to watch this or watching this, I totally responded incorrectly yesterday. She said to me, I was at the event that Doug and I were at the very first time, New Media Summit, back in September of 2018. And when she said that to me, my brain went to April of 2019 for some reason. But then I was like, oh my God, that's like the first, that was the first, that's where we met. That's where this whole, but not there was nothing there, but it was, okay, 2018, that's how long she's been watching the progress, or she's been involved, or she's been seeing. And so now making a jump into a 5-figure investment from, she's been your client also, those personal interactions pay off over time also. That's also a long game when it's a one-on-one sometimes, because someone's watching you and then they're seeing how you're doing over time and they're going, okay, I see where you're going. I like it. Here's my money. Take me there.
Well, you have that happen all the time. You have people that are constantly reaching out to you from your show that have said, I've been listening to your show for now 3 years, or I've been listening to your show for 5 years, and and they have never reached out before, and now they're ready to get started. And it's probably very similar to your business, especially in real estate, Karen, and that some people, they've been watching you from the sidelines or seeing your advertisements or maybe even listening to your show. And now years later, they're hopping into your bucket.
Well, I'm sure you've heard of the reticular activator, right? Because until you actually, your brain helps you self-select what you pay attention to, because it's like if you paid attention to every, input, you would be on overwhelm. So when you start to pay attention to something and give it your focus, then you're going to start seeing it everywhere, right? And you think you're seeing it everywhere where it was really always there. And so what you focus on expands. So what you're explaining is true in sales as well, not being salesy, but being that person of, expert, in whatever community it is you want to build that in as an authority, then you're an author of your podcast. You're an author. You don't have to all have everything be in writing to be an author, because you're creating your story as you put out this content, and that increases people's own connectivity with you.
Back to the guesting, because when you were talking about some of your leads came from being a guest, another one of my mastermind members for my group, she said to me, so I always ask, what show did you have a, onboarding, and what show on the application, do you listen to my shows? Which ones, how long, blah, blah. And when we first met, and after she joined, she said, yeah, I've been listening for about 2 years or 3 years. And I said, okay. And then we had our first bonus session, and she said, oh no, I've been listening for 6 years. I realized the other day, she's like, I first heard you on Food Hills podcast. And I was like, and I can trace back 2 of my new mastermind members to Food Hills podcast and I've been a guest on there many times. And so, but that's 6 years ago. Before she was divorced. And so, again, it's that long lead, but the conversion ends up being easier. Doug got his first fan mail recently from Turnkey. And I was like, okay, it's starting. You've got your fan mail. It's a higher conversion.
Well, and I think about this too. The only time I actually put my email address in the show was that episode that I did. I keep thinking my call to action was not obviously strong enough, or I wasn't giving the right information to my community. So finally I figured, okay, well, maybe I need to actually give them my email address so they can reach out to me. I don't know. It's always a guessing game.
Well, I have to say that podcasting is one of the best things I've ever done. So if anybody out there is like on the fence or going, it does this perception that there's too many podcasts out there, but I think everybody has a niche, has a voice, has something to share. And so if you're interested in podcasting, I'm a raving fan.
Well, and I love that you said that, and Lou's here early, so we'll get Lou set up. One of my members of my Inner Circle membership said to me, do you know who your competition is? And I was like, what are you talking about?
Competition.
First of all, I don't think I have it because I'm just me. So you either like me or you don't like me. But he said in the law of attraction space, he's like, I started listening to 3 of them and you're the only one I keep listening to. They're not very good. So like you said, there's too many podcasts. It's not about the content. There can be 20 different people talking about the same content. It's whether or not people connect with you and they like what you say and they feel a resonance with you. So you can't have too many because you need to find that right fit. Because finding a podcast is like finding a friend, like someone that you actually want to listen to for years and years and years, and who doesn't annoy you or you don't get tired of it. Right? So it's a so much more personal marketing tool in that way that really is about that resonance of the person and your message. So yeah, there's not too many podcasts because half of them won't continue anyway. You'll all pod fade.
Pod fade, yeah. You know, along the same line, you've mentioned law of attraction a couple of times. I have a philosophy of law of attraction. I think from what my experience is, and maybe I used to look at it this way, and so I'm projecting other people look at it this way, and that is expecting that you're going to put something out there and then something equal is going to come back, like a matchy. Like I put this out here or I contacted this person and they're going to contact me back. But what I find is it's an energy. So the energy of putting out there content and, connection opportunities, then it often comes from somewhere else. And I'll go, where did that come from? And I think it's the universe saying, oh, but this person was ready. The person you thought you wanted wasn't ready.
Right.
And so I brought you the person who's ready. Now,
right.
The point on this is that it's my obligation. It's our obligation to go first. I think people think, oh, law of attraction, it's just going to come to me. And I think that's where people stop the flow, or they don't start the flow. They don't even begin the flow because they don't put it out there first.
Well, you're always attracting. It never turns off. You're always emitting. So spirit, purpose, and energy is where we talk about law of attraction, but and teach it very thorouhtly. But yeah, you're always attracting. So if you're attracting a lot of things you don't like, then you got to look at what are you
change
emitting?
The way you're doing things. Otherwise, change the way you're doing. Look at things in order for things to change. So yes, okay. Well, that's the point that I'm making is you want to be sending out the energy that's going to be attracting what you want. But it's may not come exactly as you think it's going to come. That's what happens.
Most of the time it doesn't actually. Yes, right. Yes, it will be a learning curve at every stage, and hopefully better than you expected sometimes, and then other times will show you where you don't think you are. Yeah. So it's a very telling mirror. We talk about different things that we talked about today, so make sure to listen to that and get Karen's gift as well as everybody else's. And Karen, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks, Karen.
Yes, and here's to your all success.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks. And if you want to get a good look at Karen traveling around the world, just join her Instagram page. I have such a great time following your travels and your antics wherever you go. Where were you recently, Karen?
Well, our son was married in November in Florida, and then we went to Colorado for the Thanksgiving holiday.
You had a great trip, and I get to watch live vicariously through your travels. So good to have you here, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks. Bye.
All right,